For the first time,
Yeah, for the first time in over 200 years, Mexico has elected a woman as its president.
so in this explainer, we're going to break down the three core pillars that really built Claudia Sheinbaum's path to power. We're talking about her identity as a scientist, an activist, and a politician. And she really captured the weight of this moment with her own powerful words. She's framing her win not as just some personal victory, but as this collective arrival for all the women of Mexico.
All right, let's get into it. Because, to really understand her blueprint for Mexico, you first have to get a handle on her foundation. And it's not what you might expect. It's not in politics. It's in science. I mean, her training is in a super technical, data-driven field. Sheinbaum is, by trade, an engineer and a physicist. And think about that. It's a background that prizes evidence and, methodical problem solving. It's just a world away from the career path of your typical politician. And look, this isn't just some degree she earned and then, left behind. Her academic journey was incredibly rigorous and international. We're talking about everything from her physics thesis on wood-burning stoves for rural homes, all the way to her doctoral research at top-tier U.S. institutions. And it all culminates in her contribution to the IPCC. That's the world's leading body on climate change, and the report that won the Nobel Peace Prize. And this number, wow, this really gets at the depth of her expertise. We're talking about being an author or co-author of over 100 specialized scientific articles, plus 2 books on energy and climate change. This isn't just a talking point on a resume, right? It's clearly a lifelong passion. And this quote from her mother, who, by the way, is an acclaimed biologist herself, it just perfectly captures the two forces that seem to define Claudia. It's the bridge, really, from that scientific mind to her deep social conscience. So that social commitment, where did it come from? Well, it wasn't just some vague feeling she had. It was forged. Forged in one of the most defining and frankly tragic moments of modern Mexican history. Yeah, Sheinbaum proudly calls herself a daughter of 68. And if you're not familiar, this refers to the 1968 student movement. It was this massive mobilization against the country's authoritarian government at the time, and it ended in the horrific Tlatelolco massacre. So for her, being a daughter of 68 means holding this core belief in democracy and having this deep-seated opposition to any kind of authoritarian rule. And her political convictions, they were a total family affair. Both of her parents, a chemical engineer and a biologist, were deeply involved in that 68 movement. So they lived this fusion of scientific inquiry and political engagement. It created this environment where asking how things work was just completely inseparable from asking why society is the way it is. You can see how that shaped her. Okay, so you have the scientific blueprint. You have the activist conscience. The big question is, how did she actually translate that into a political career? Well, it wasn't some sudden leap into the spotlight. It was a very methodical, step-by-step climb. In a way, her political career almost mirrors the scientific method. She starts with a clear hypothesis, right? That's her student activism. Then she starts testing her ideas, first at the local level and then at the city level. She was Secretary of Environment for Mexico City, then a borough mayor, and then the big one, head of government for the entire capital, a job that's really seen as second only to the presidency itself. Every single step was a logical progression, building experience and building power along the way. At her time running one of the world's biggest cities, it was really defined by two sides of the same coin. These data-driven successes on one hand, and these profound crises on the other. So you see the successes. Her administration saw a dramatic drop in crime, and she launched these really acclaimed social and transit programs. But then there's the other side. She faced intense scrutiny and criticism over 2 major structural collapses: the Racemin School during an earthquake, and most famously, the tragic collapse of the Metro Line 12. Okay, so that brings us to the big question now, right? How do these 3 distinct pillars, the scientist, the activist, and the politician, how do they all come together to shape her vision for the entire nation?
And her national development plan, it's a direct reflection of everything we've just talked about. You can practically see the different parts of her identity here. You've got the activists' focus on social welfare, the scientists' emphasis on sustainable development, and then the politicians' pragmatism in areas like infrastructure and economic prosperity.
It's all there. And these promises, which are drawn from her 100 Steps for Transformation plan, they are sweeping. I mean, they range from making social programs like senior pensions and student scholarships a constitutional right to creating new financial support for older women. But then there are also some really controversial proposals, like electing Supreme Court judges by popular vote and putting the National Guard fully under military command. And of course, you can totally see her scientific DNA in pledges for a massive clean energy transition and a big push for nationwide digitalization. And this number right here, this is a centerpiece of her energy policy, which, remember, is a key area of her academic expertise. The plan is to make sure the state-owned utility, the CFE, generates at least 54% of the nation's electricity. That's a huge deal. It basically cements the state's central role in the entire energy sector.
And wow, look at the ambition on this one. This isn't just about ticking the minimum wage up a little bit. It's about fundamentally restoring its purchasing power. The goal here is for a single salary to cover 2.5 times the cost of basic needs. That's a level of economic dignity, really, that Mexico hasn't seen in decades. And of course, you really can't have a discussion about Sheinbaum without addressing her relationship with her political mentor, Andres Manuel López Obrador, or AMLO. She expresses this unwavering public loyalty to him and his fourth transformation project. And this, naturally, raises the central question for her presidency. Where does his influence end? And where does her own political identity truly begin? So, when you boil it all down, Claudia Sheinbaum is coming to power with this incredibly clear, methodical, and data-driven blueprint. But, as her time in Mexico City definitely showed, even the most meticulous plans get tested by the immense, often unpredictable pressures of reality. So the question we're left with is this: can the scientist, the activist, and the politician, all wrapped into one person, truly architect a new future for Mexico?